Hello there, it's Laser Max, and I just wanted to bring up some Blade Symphony stuff. Um, in Blade Symphony, there's a lot of different sort of mechanics and things about how the game works that you just might never notice or not know about. And so I wanted just to bring some of that game knowledge out there. It's not really precise frame data, but it's just general rules. And so, one of the first things I might mention is how attacks can be extended by standing still. And so, if you take a basic attack like B1, it's commonly whiff punished if the judgment user is using a katana. People will whiff punish B1 all the time. And so, one of the things you can do to prevent this would be to stand still after it. And you can see that little step that I take after. When I do the B1, take the left foot forward. That can obviously be cancelled if I just walk in any direction I want. But if I stand still, it will play that last bit of the animation. And what that actually does is it extends parry linger. And so that's something that applies to a lot of attacks. The general concept of your attacks having an extended animation after you're done attacking, that applies to all attacks. More or less every attack in the game has an idle animation for when you do an attack and stand still. It's just that not all of them extends parry linger. But the most clear example of this would be something like Pure's B1. Now it's not exactly like that, but you can cancel it before the second part of the swing. And you could say almost every attack is like that you can cancel it before the end of the animation. But it's not in the same way. Just B1 is different because you can't walk cancel it anymore. And in the second part of Pure's B1 swing, she can actually hit you and not just parry. But this is one of those things that are just really useful to know, because you could get away with using Judgment's B1 Tier 1 way more recklessly if you were to implement standing still and mixing that up with walking or even attacking. Because if they try to whiff punish and I do like B1 fast left, they could interrupt the fast left easily and I can't block or move or anything. But if I were to extend the parry linger, they would, if they whiff punish with a fast attack, I would parry them and get a free B2. And so there's sort of like a mix-up after the B1 where I could get hit, but I could also hit him. It's a 50-50, and it's about equally favored to me as it is to my opponent. And that's always been there, I do believe. It's such an old mechanic, it's always been around, but no one really ever talks about it or implements it really. But a lot of those situations where suddenly your opponent just lingers way longer than you thought he would, or longer than he usually does, and you mess up your whiff punishes, that's not actually you mistiming. That's just the other guy stopping to move after their attacks and accidentally standing still for a little bit longer. And that happens to players sometimes. Sometimes they'll do like this and then walk a little bit slower. You know, not just holding it, holding the direction key, but actually trying to press it but doing it too late so the linger comes out. So that's useful to know that people can, at any time if they want to, just extend the linger of B1 to make you miss your whiff punish and get punished yourself. Then there's also the attack shuffle delay. It's sort of, I don't know what to call it, but either way, if you attack and then shuffle, there's a little bit of a delay after the attack before you can shuffle. If you attack, you can immediately cancel the last bit of the attack animation, where you stand still and idle for a second by just walking or jumping. You can immediately jump, but you can't immediately shuffle or roll. Those will take another split second or so before you can get out. There's always a delay like that. if you attack. And I don't know when this was implemented or if it was always there, but either way, you can imagine that the game would be really annoying to play if every time someone whiffed an attack they could immediately move out of the way too easily. And so it's probably just to keep the game somewhat balanced so that you can actually punish people's attacks instead of just having your whiff punish get dodged every time you do an attack by a roll or a shuffle. People will probably be able to spam attacks and be untouchable, like in Street Fighter 4 where they just do footsies, sort of reminding that. But either way, yeah. Oh yeah, this is one of the reasons you want to be using post-attack feint cancelling, which is, as opposed to feinting before the swing, you feint after the swing. And so, post-attack feint cancelling, or PA feint cancel, it will remove this shuffle and roll debuff, because there is no such thing as a delay after you feint. You can feint and then immediately roll or shuffle. And so you could actually manage to do an attack and immediately shuffle if you just do the feint. Now the feint does have a cooldown now, but this is one of the reasons that a Katana Judgment, or a Katana anything for that matter, could attack and move really quickly, because they could do they could feint something and then immediately move afterwards. And some feints actually move you as well, like a B2 feint that pulls you a tiny bit forward, like half a shuffle or something. And so you could do a shuffle, which you could attack cancel into a B2, which you could feint cancel and do another shuffle. And so you could have sequences like that. Let's see if I can do it smoothly. Yeah. And so there's a lot of movement involved with feint, because you can constantly cancel things like that and then implement shuffle jumping. Another thing I wanted to introduce is this thing I think is a bug, but doesn't seem to be that much of a problem, which would be the shuriken cancel for the purpose of shuffles and rolls. If you do a shuffle or a roll, everyone knows that you can cancel it into an attack. And towards the end, you can cancel it a little bit earlier. But as it turns out, not only can you cancel attacks, but you can cancel them into shurikens. And so this is how a roll into a shuriken would normally look. You see a roll, and then when I have completely rolled, I can do the shuriken. But then it comes out a little bit faster when I do it now. You can see my head doesn't really quite pop up. It's still, I'm still like on the ground. But then normally, you can see, yeah, now my head completely pops up. And so how do you do this? Well, it's pretty simple. You roll, and then you hold left click, which is the attack button, which would normally cancel into charge. But then you also, at the same time, hold shuriken, and then it will attack cancel into the shuriken. But this is not normally possible, because if you charge, as you can see, I can't shuriken. Charging does not cancel into shuriken, although it does cancel into grab. And so you could always cancel rolls into grabs or shuffles into grabs, because that's how it's supposed to work. This could be useful for catching people off guard, I suppose. You can do a really quick shuffle into a shuriken. And I think this is so fun to do, right? To immediately move and be able to do a shuriken. I don't know how useful it is, but because shurikens can get faked, and because people have to charge in order to get past the shuriken, being able to do a quick shuffle back and make them charge is actually kind of useful. this is something about the shuriken that isn't always mentioned, or isn't always known. People don't use shurikens all that much, and people don't really have this this advanced of a strategical understanding of the shuriken. In Blade Symphony, when you throw a shuriken, first off, if I just tap, it will not go all the way. I have to hold it, and then it eventually, really slowly comes out. When the shuriken hits someone, it will get automatically blocked if the guy is just standing or walking around. But if he does any given action, like a movement, technique, rolls, shuffles, jumps, or just an attack, shurikens will hit them. Also, people can't auto-block after a dash. But right now I'm flashing white, that means I'm vulnerable to shurikens, and obviously bigger jumps like wall runs on top of just regular jumps. Wall runs is really vulnerable to shurikens. But if you get auto-blocked, if I'm just standing around here, it will put me in block stun. And it's a specific type of block stun that's unique to the shuriken. But it's basically just block stun. If I hit the shuriken on someone's block, or auto-block rather, at point blank, I always have frame advantage. Shuriken throwers always get frame advantage. And so, if you want to punish someone attempting to throw a shuriken at you, you either have to dodge it, which is not going to happen, or you have to charge, which is the easiest way. You charge because while you are charging, you're immune to the block stun, but you still don't get hit by the shuriken, so it'll get blocked, but I'll be able to attack immediately. So I run up, he throws the shuriken, I just release the attack, and then he gets hit, because look at this, I'm super vulnerable after that. And so that's how it goes. But if I fake the shuriken, they're gonna have to start charging if to get through the shuriken. But if I fake it, they'll end up charging for nothing. And the problem with that is, while charging, most of your like anything you want to do gets locked away. You can't shuffle while charging. You can't roll. You can jump, which is okay. But then only katana users can actually cancel the charge as quickly as this with a feint. Otherwise, they would have to release an attack, possibly jump to do another type of attack like an air attack and aim that away, if that character can do it. Or they'd have, might even have to grab cancel the charge, which leaves you really vulnerable. But if you do it like, if you before cancelling the charge, walk backwards and turn away a little bit, you might be able to just about barely avoid a punish. But yeah, making someone charge for no reason at close range or at mid-close range really puts them at a disadvantage. And so just being able to shuffle into a fake shuriken is actually really good. And you can also just fake the shuriken and hit them if they come too close. It's really good. And if they wanna hit you out of the fake, they could, but they might risk getting hit by the shuriken if they do that. And you have to be really quick to hit someone out of a fake shuriken, by the way. And so, yeah, this is really fun. It's not very known that you can cancel into shurikens, hold, attack, and shuriken at the same time. You need to be kind of fast about it, but it's not hard. Oh yeah, I mentioned a little bit about this in my video about N1, but there's actually a couple of mix-ups that you can do that involves shuffle jumping and just regular jumping. And so, one problem with the shuffle jump, the good side of it is it closes an amazing distance. It goes so far away, and so you could use it to chase people down. But the problem is it has so many components, and the overall speed or time it takes to do, when you combine all of the steps, is very long. You do a shuffle, you cancel it into a charge, then while you're in charging you immediately jump, which will carry the momentum from the shuffle to the jump. And that's a shuffle jump. And you fly all across the screen. And typically you do that when chasing people down into an air attack after you jump, looking like this. shuffle, charge jump, air attack. And it looks really smooth. It's like one motion, but if you combine it all, it's actually very reactable at any range. It doesn't matter how fast I do the air attack. The air attack will always be interruptible in reaction. And so that's a big problem if you're playing against a defensive and winning player who got decent reflexes. You don't want your chase down means of chase down to be interruptible. So what you could do is that you could shuffle and you could do the jump, but instead do a air cancel attack, like an air cancel D1, and then it will look like it's a shuffling because I do the jump, I transition up in the air, and it will look like it's going to be a shuffle jump air. But instead I just stop here and do the B1. It will probably be out of range, but if they're interrupting with a fast tool, which they probably will be with most characters, it's gonna parry and I'm gonna get a free B2. And so that's a mix-up. Off of the shuffle, I could go into a shuffle jump, which would get close enough and hit them, or I could do the out of range B1, which could parry them if they try to interrupt. And so that's the basic idea of that. Also, there's a jump mix-up off of just jumping, which you could kind of apply with shuffle jumping, but it doesn't really work the same way, because when you add the shuffle on the start of the jump, it makes it so slow that this mix-up wouldn't work in the same way, I don't believe. But if I do a regular jump, and I just jump straight into my opponent, what most people would expect is that I would go for an air attack. And so if I just do a jump into an air attack, it's different from a shuffle jump into an air attack. This is not interruptible reaction in the same way. It might be if I delay it, so that I do it towards the end of my jump, but not if I do it to this fast and I'm at the apex. And so when people see that, they'll keep walking backwards or block or whatever. They won't attack. They'll wait out the air attack so they can punish it. So what I could do is I could do an empty jump and then do a ground attack. And that works surprisingly well. I can do multiple jumps. I could do like jump forward, jump forward, jump forward, and do an air attack. Because I got increased movement speed while jumping. And so I could use that to slowly approach them. And every time they see a jump, they're going to wait for the air attack. But then I'm going to keep on jumping till I'm close enough to the point where they can no longer back off. And that works a lot. Yeah. It's even comparable to a wave dash in Tekken 7. You're all up in his face, you can interrupt at any given time, but he just don't, because it doesn't feel right to him. It doesn't feel like it can interrupt you, but of course it can. But it's kind of risky. He doesn't know when the attack is coming out, or if I'll do it during the jump or the landing, or if I'll like do an air cancel or wherever. And so it's not that easy to play against, but yeah, it works so much. I can do, typically I'll do 2 jumps almost always. The first jump I'm too far away to hit anything, it'll just whiff. But on the second jump I'll typically be close enough to the point they can't escape me, and even if I'm not, I could probably do something like that, or yeah, add something extra on the movement. Maybe do 2 jumps and then walk a little bit first. If I do a 1 jump, and that 1 jump is enough to hit them if they attack and stop moving, the second jump will be so guaranteed that it doesn't matter what they do, or if they pull back, it'll still hit them. And so when I jump straight at someone, typically the first jump is almost always empty, fake, and then I'll do another jump, and then on that other jump I'll either do an air attack or I'll land and do a move. And so that's it. Oh yeah, balance right for judgment. This attack got buffed, and people still didn't use it much. But I actually think this is really good, because it's somewhat reminding of a evasive move. And there aren't really evasive moves aren't really a thing in Blade Symphony the same way there are in Tekken 7. They exist, but they just aren't really all that remarkable. Because in Tekken 7, being able to evade a mid is like amazing. It's game breaking. But here, being able to just like use a balanced right to take a step to the side like this, curve it back. It's not really all that impressive. And then there's hyper evasive moves, or at least more evasive moves, like Ryoko's heavy left, which pulls back and parries really quickly simultaneously, which this should be a really good evasive move, and it is, but people don't really know it for being evasive. They just know it as a regular parry tool. Then you got like Pure's fast left. This one is actually probably one of the only moves that is known to be obnoxious because of how evasive it is. It's like, it goes around you. She does such a big move here. She's almost untouchable, and so it's not like people really say, oh my god, that move is so evasive, it's bullshit, in chat. They'll just say the move is really hard to deal with or whatever, but they won't really note why. There isn't really all that much talk around evasiveness in Blade Symphony, or being able to dodge stuff, which I think there should be. There's a lot of situations where moves mess up your opponent because of the positioning of your character's models. I mean, one of the most well-known things about Ryoko is after he does fast 1, 2, 3, you can go into F4, curve around you and get to your back. But it's not really mentioned often enough how hard it is to hit him, even if he does nothing. Or even if, let's say I just whiff them in the air and then go like this to the side. It's like, I don't even need to hit the move, and it's not necessarily just for gap closing, it's for positioning too. And because it makes it hard to hit me. In Blade Symphony, you really want to get an angle on your opponent before attacking. If I were to do something like, let's say, Judgment's B1, it could outspeed a lot and parry, but on its own it's not as impressive as if I were to add a shuffle, right? If I, let's say, were to add a shuffle like this to the side simultaneously, it's not like I would be any easier to react to if I were to attack by shuffling to the side and attacking. Even though it technically delays my attack, it evens itself out because I could make whatever attack my opponent would interrupt me miss me. This is not always true. It used to be more true for Ryoko, but now when his F1 is this slash and wide, it's much harder to do. Although it doesn't go very far to his left side, which would mean if we mirror that and I'm playing Judge against Ryoko, I should sidestep, or not sidestep, this isn't taken, shuffle to the right. Theoretically, but I've found that it's really hard to do. It's harder to do than before. Ryoko's F1 used to be so linear. It used to be a vertical cut, but for some reason it feels like it's chunkier even to that side, and so I can't really get around it no matter how much I predict it. But I can still do it against Phalanx. Amazing against Phalanx, Pure 2. The B3 and the B2 are very much avoidable. And so there's almost no reason to why you shouldn't be shuffling to a side and then attacking. It'll just add to your attack. It'll make it easier to evade your opponent's attack. It'll make it harder to actually deal with it or whiff punish it. If I go to the side like this, they'd have to turn around and whiff punish. I might actually, as you can see, be one step forward. I might actually step forward into their side and their back. Even if it misses, it will be really hard to do something about that from that position. And so I could make it so a very whiff punishable attack would be unpunished, because they would just see that, oh, shit, he's at my side or my back, I'm just gonna back off, jump away. I might even be able to apply pressure off an attack that's normally punishable, because I am going to their side and whatnot. A lot of chaos tends to happen when you get to people's side or their back, especially when you chain it and jump over and back over and stuff like that. So that's something to keep in mind. And so I think for now I don't have any more ideas, so have fun and see you in game.